a movie to find success of any kind, it has to evoke some sort of emotion from the audience. Whether it's joy, excitement, intrigue, or nostalgia, those watching a story have to feel connected to it. It's no easy task, but there are plenty of ways it can be done. Certainly, positive emotions aren't the only path. Movies can make you feel sad, angry, or scared as an effective method to commit you to the story. Usually, there are certain types of movies in which an audience would expect this kind of darkness, but that is not always the case. Such darkness, particularly coming so abruptly and seemingly out of nowhere, can be quite jarring for an audience, and it can often then change the complexion of the entire film. On the other hand, it could potentially add that touch of genuine emotion, even if that emotion is depression, to make a memorable and often iconic moment. And so with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with 10 movies that got real dark real fast. Number 10, Zombieland. This is the first of 2 zombie movies on this list, but it's very different from most others in the genre. Zombieland, even with the living dead and the gory deaths, was still first and foremost a comedy. The movie was goofy, weirdly heartwarming, and outright hilarious at times, but there was one moment of pain and darkness just waiting to pounce on the unsuspecting audience. This revolved around Woody Harrelson's character, affectionately known as Tallahassee by his new friends. The whole point of using destinations as their names was to avoid getting too close or attached to each other, but still Tallahassee found himself discussing his dog Buck. He loved the dog so much that they were best friends, but he was taken away from him by the damn zombies. It's not until he's playing a game of Monopoly with Columbus, Wichita, and Little Rock that the realization hits. Buck wasn't Tallahassee's dog, he was his son, his young boy that was killed by the zombies and that he would never see again. Woody Harrelson wasn't the only one crying at this point. Number 9, The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy was far darker than the Joel Schumacher and Tim Burton efforts that came before it. In fairness, this wouldn't have been particularly difficult, but this was definitely a newer tone to the Caped Crusader on the big screen. The broodier Bruce Wayne found himself up against a far creepier version of the Joker in The Dark Knight, but even so, the movie took an unexpectedly harrowing turn when the clown prince of crime called out Batman on TV. The Joker was broadcast interrogating and torturing a man who dressed up like the Batman in what was a genuinely disturbing video. Off-screen, he took the man's life, but how he announced this to the world was arguably even darker. Mayor Garcia looked out of his office window across Gotham before seeing this Batman impersonator with the Joker's smile painted on his lips and a noose around his neck crash into the glass. The shock of the moment of seeing a man hanged by the neck slamming into the window out of nowhere, followed by the subsequent murder tape, was darker and tougher to watch than anything else in the movie. Even more so than using a man's head to make a pencil disappear. Number 8, Mulan. One of the trademarks of Disney animation is the impossibly catchy music. Let It Go, You're Welcome, and most recently We Don't Talk About Bruno have taken the world by storm, and songs like these often distract from how dark the stories can actually be. Take Mulan, for instance. The main story is about the titular character going undercover as a man in the Chinese army in place of her father, trying to prove herself not only to Shang but to her own family. In the background of this, however, is why she has to join the army in the first place. The setting for the movie is the invasion of China by the Huns, but with songs like Reflection and Honor to Us All, this could easily be forgotten. Instead, the troops in Shang's command were having a laugh, becoming friends, and enjoying their time together. This stopped abruptly, however, after a song about finding the right girl for them. A girl worth fighting for actually stopped mid-sentence as the troops stumbled across a village that had been ruthlessly put to the torch. Nothing brings you back to reality like the brutal deaths of an untold number of innocent people, particularly in a Disney movie. Number 7, Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith. The Star Wars prequel trilogy told the story of Anakin Skywalker and his seduction by Darth Sidious and the dark side. The once great Jedi, who was supposed to bring balance to the Force, played a great role in bringing down almost the entire Order save for Yoda and Obi-Wan. Everyone watching was already aware of the ultimate fate of Anakin. It was no secret that he would eventually become Darth Vader, and the movies fell flat. One of the biggest criticisms across the board was the goofiness and silliness, which wasn't just brought to the table by Jar Jar Binks alone. Arguably the defining moment of the entire trilogy, however, was the execution of Order 66. Palpatine ordered the new Darth Vader and the entire clone army to kill every Jedi, and a harrowing montage showing the murder of the galaxy's peacekeepers followed. But nothing compared to 2, the deaths of the younglings. At the Jedi Temple, Anakin came across the defenseless younglings who looked to their elder for help. Anakin instead looked into those innocent eyes and drew his lightsaber. The deaths of these children weren't initially shown on screen, though footage was later seen on a security hologram, as were their little bodies afterwards. Grim stuff. Number 6. Up. When you go in to watch a Pixar movie, it's to be expected that there's going to be a great deal of emotion, and usually more than a little heartbreak. If the studio can make an audience genuinely care about toys and robots, just imagine what can happen with actual humans. On the face of it, Up looked like it would be a nice, uplifting movie about the relationship between an old man and a young boy. This was very much true, but no one expected the opening 10 minutes to be as devastating and distressing as they were. Even for Pixar, the opening scenes of Up were tough to take. Carl and Ellie's relationship was truly special, but in the montage that showed their time together, there were 2 gut punches that should have at least come with a warning beforehand. The first was Ellie's trip to the doctor that confirmed she had either suffered a miscarriage or was unable to have children at all, followed by her death. Naturally, this tore Carl apart and audiences along with him. Number 5. In Bruges. Before Martin McDonagh's award nominated The Banshees of Inisherin, the acclaimed director worked with both Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson on In Bruges. The movie was a dark comedy that followed Ray and Ken, 2 hitmen who had been sent to Bruges after a job gone wrong. Early on, audiences knew that these 2 friends were contract killers, but the tone of the movie didn't exactly reflect that. There was plenty of goofy humour and a grown man sarcastically pouting about having to be in Bruges. But then, exactly what happened during the previous job was shown. In Ray's first job for Harry, he killed a priest, firing at the target first through the wall of a confessional booth before shooting him in the back. The problem was that the killer didn't see who was on the other side of the priest. The shot of the unmoving little boy killed by a bullet of Ray's that went straight through the priest is haunting. This took the movie down a very dark path and opened the door to some very suicidal thoughts of Ray after what he had done. There was still a surprising amount of humour in the movie, but it was never quite the same tone after this scene. Number 4. The Lion King. There are countless iconic moments in Disney animation, with more than a few coming in the original Lion King. The opening scene, the Hakuna Matata montage, and more are favourites among Disney fans, but the movie isn't all sunshine and singing. In fact, The Lion King is arguably the most traumatic Disney movie ever, and that takes some doing. The phrase "Long live the king" will forever be associated with the moment Scar throws his brother into the stampede to his death. After the fun songs and playful nature between Simba and his father, and even with the obvious evil of Scar and his hyenas, this was jarring. But it was about to get so much worse. Poor little Simba finds the corpse of his father and tries desperately to wake him up, as only an innocent child could. How can a movie so beloved be so difficult to watch? Number 3. A Quiet Place. From the beginning of his feature directorial debut, John Krasinski proved himself to be a master of suspense. The opening minutes of A Quiet Place are as close to silent as possible, setting the eerie tone for the story and the situation itself. Things first escalate when the young boy of the family picks up some batteries for a rocket toy that just so happens to make a loud noise. When he turns it on, to the horror of the rest of his family, they are a good few hundred yards away, so the father sprints towards him immediately. Even in spite of the movie's tense opening, nobody expected those hideous aliens to beat Krasinski to his son. Surely the movie wouldn't open with such a brutal death after what was a relatively calm, if eerie, first few minutes. Turns out that yes it would. That innocent kid was killed just a fraction of a second before his dad was able to save him. This fractured the family beyond repair and gave the entire movie a whole new tone for the rest of its runtime. Number 2. JoJo Rabbit. For a movie based around World War II, JoJo Rabbit was a light-hearted joy of a movie, for the most part. Such is the impact of Taika Waititi when he gets things right and doesn't go too far Love and Thunder style. For all its comedy, however, there was a deep emotional thread throughout based around JoJo's mother Rosie. While her son was a member of the Hitler Youth, she herself risked her life to hide a young Jewish girl from the Nazis. There's a scene in the movie where Rosie is standing at a higher level than JoJo, so her shoes are directly in his eye line. The audience thinks nothing of it at the time, it's just a mother playing with her son, but it comes back in a haunting, devastating way later in the movie. As JoJo is following a butterfly through the town square, he once again comes upon those same shoes at his eye line, only this time there is nothing underneath. She's been hanged. JoJo Rabbit had plenty of laughs and things never got too dark, which made this hugely impactful moment all the more heartbreaking. Number 1. I Am Legend. This list has largely been comprised of the deaths of numerous characters, whether it was characters largely unknown, someone's parents, or even the death of a child. You could argue that none of them compare to the death of an animal on the big screen, however. Audiences typically go into certain genres of films expecting to see death, and though these can be devastating, the death of a dog, particularly one as good as Robert Neville's in I Am Legend, just hits different. This took a relatively dark movie to a whole new level instantly. The horror of the fight sequence before it, the realization that the dog Sam had been hurt and would soon turn against her best friend, and the action of Robert killing her himself was just too much to take. The act itself happens off screen in a way, where Will Smith is visible but Sam isn't. You could argue this as some small solace, but that didn't make it any less traumatic. The death of a dog is one of the worst things you can see on the big screen, particularly when the owner is forced to put it down himself. And that concludes our list. If you think we missed any, then do let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.